A 1031 exchange is a tool that's authorized by the Internal Revenue Code that allows you to defer your gains when you sell investment or business property or property that's used in your trade and acquire like-kind property that will also be used for investment or for use in your trade or business. Now, 1031 exchanges are limited to real estate, and typically real estate in the United States is like-kind to other real estate in the United States. So you can exchange a farm for a skyscraper or an apartment building for an office complex.
Thanks for being on Real Talk with Geoffrey. We're with Jeff Peterson over at CPEC at the newly renovated 222 building on the 40th floor. It's a phenomenal view, and we're excited to be here. And they say flattery gets you everywhere. And what I would like to learn is how Jeff has gone from, I'm not quite sure, we're going to learn that part, to what I would consider to be one of the central real estate figures in the Twin Cities Metro. Jeff, how did you get here?
You know, there's a book by a guy named Mitch Duckler that's about the essential brand.
Okay.
And I have always really wanted to brand myself as the guy for 1031 exchanges.
Sure.
And I do that by treating people well, first and foremost. In my business dealings, I always try to do win-win deals and be mutually respectful and beneficial.
Sure.
And over the course of a couple of decades of doing a lot of deals and getting a lot of momentum, I have built a good reputation. But initially, there was a lot of difficulty doing deals with stodgy, older law firms and more reputable, bigger companies, real estate companies, because they hadn't really heard of me.
Sure.
And they didn't really have a great deal of familiarity with 1031. So it was all sort of unknown. And over time, I've kind of chipped away at their barriers.
Sure.
And now I think I've got an entree.
Sure.
Like I'm welcomed in, and my participation is sought out.
So let's bring it back to time. How long ago was the first 1031 exchange that you had managed?
Late 1990s, somewhere around 1996, 1997,
Okay.
I got involved in my first 1031 exchanges.
Sure.
I would go out and I would meet with the client in person. We didn't have electronic signatures. I would prepare the documents and have them physically sign them.
You were your courier.
I was my own delivery courier. I would sign the people up in person.
Look at where we're now.
And today we do things a little bit more efficiently.
Sure.
And it's allowed us to broaden our net because we're doing deals throughout the United States, not just here in Minneapolis
Sure.
now.
How did you find that person? Like, how did you earn their trust or present this tax strategy?
So initially, my way of building rapport with people was to go out and teach seminars.
Okay.
And I still do that. Tomorrow, I'm going to the Lakes office of Coldwell Banker
Sure.
to teach a seminar at one of their sales meetings. But doing large group continuing education classes, getting out and speaking, creating that sort of professorial, I guess, whatever you want to call it, persona.
Sure.
You know, that really got me a lot of people calling. And when the phone starts ringing, I've learned that you answer it, because if you don't, they'll call the next guy.
That's actually something that I found always, fascinating. You do answer your phone. And if you don't, you call people back quite quickly. How I was introduced to you actually was my buddy Brad Meyer. Of course, we had a meeting in a steam room, and he had connected me with you, but he said, what I really like about Jeff is that he answers his phone as quickly as I need him to, which is interesting.
Brad is a class act, and he's a guy that we could study for success tips.
Yeah.
I have a deck of Tiffany cards that he gave me one year on my bookcase behind you. But Brad is always dressed to the nines in a black Armani
Always
suit
black.
with a black tie, and he looks great every day. But he's very professional, he's very accomplished, and very confident in his earnest ability to help people. I want to emulate that as much as I can.
So when he connected and I reached out to you the first time that I had, because we've done a couple baby-sized exchanges, this professorial that you're saying, you do actually take an approach where you're willing to understand the scenario, and then you really break it down, and it has led me being more confident in my decisions, which I'm assuming that's kind of why everybody continues to come to you, because you just help them understand what needs to be done, how to do it, but that's you today. I'm assuming that you didn't, as a spring chicken, you weren't as confident and comfortable in all those sorts of things, right? Like who were you before an exchange?
So I went to the University of Minnesota Law School.
All right.
And I probably just got barely into that school, a school of
Yeah,
that
but
caliber.
it's the U of M. It's a high caliber law school here.
And I studied hard, and I was a hard worker. And I came out of that school knowing how to learn. And I was lucky enough to have access to a lot of learning materials about 1031 exchanges. I read everything I could, every book I could find, every continuing legal education course. I studied it because I had been a student and I had been accustomed to studying like 10 hours a day. So I really just ate it up. I loved it. And I'm a problem solver. So this tool solves a very important problem for people, like how do I deal with the taxes? So I really saw the value of it, and I was
figure out ways
intrigued
to
by it.
starve the beast ever so slightly.
Yes. Well, the beast is doing fine.
Yes, it gets plenty. Yeah.
So that's how I got started.
Okay.
And then I was able to turn that into teaching, continuing education classes for accountants, attorneys, real estate agents, and investors. I've taught for the Minnesota Housing Association and other groups like that. But eventually somebody saw me teaching at one of these state bar association deals, and they said, hey, would you like to teach tax law at William Mitchell, now called Mitchell Hamlin?
Sure.
And so I've taught maybe 29 full semesters of federal income tax.
I didn't know this.
For those guys over the last, 5-6 years.
Continue to do so?
I haven't done it as much because of the pandemic.
Sure.
They wanted me to teach
because
wear
you were
a mask.
too busy? Oh, you didn't?
That too, but wearing a mask and projecting your voice in a classroom is very hard for me to do.
Sure.
I get real breathy and I can't really
Yeah.
function inside of that thing.
Yeah.
So I think they're just now removing their mask mandates, if you can believe it.
At Mitchell they are?
Yeah.
Oh, they're a little late to the party here.
I know, I thought that was over, but
Okay. Go even further back. How did you decide to go to law school? Did you come from, are your folks attorneys? Are they real estate people or neither? Or do you come from humble background?
I enjoyed a television show that I watched in reruns called The Rockford Files. It was Jim Rockford. He was a private detective.
Okay.
I thought that was a cool show. The guy drove around Los Angeles in a Camaro. Anyway, I got involved in serving papers, process serving, which is where you serve people a summons and complaint. You find them, you track them down, and you do that. And I worked for a firm called Metro Legal
Nobody
Service.
likes those guys.
I loved it though, because I'm driving around, I'm tracking people down.
You are tracking, yeah.
You know, kind of like a little detective.
Yeah.
You know? It was a gas. I enjoyed it. And I got to doing that, and I would see these fancy lawyers in their suits and their vests, and they were going into these cool buildings like the U.S. Bank Plaza at where Frederickson is. And I would see them and I say, you know, I really want to be one of those people.
That was the seed of inspiration.
I think so.
Yeah.
So I was doing that while I was in college. And I changed my major, worked on getting my GPA up so that I could get
Did you live on campus as an undergrad or outside?
I did.
Yeah,
I did. I lived on 10th over on the sort of the Dinkytown area.
Sure.
But I wanted to get into law school. So I knew I had to get my grades up. I needed to study for the LSAT, and I did. Took me a couple years after graduating to kind of get to a place where I could get into law school. And in that time I was working. And I worked throughout law school as well. A lot of people don't. They just
Were you married?
And I was married.
So you got married earlier in life.
I got married, and then I went to law school.
Okay.
And then I had my daughter the last semester of law school, which changed my brain completely.
Wow.
Because I would have been a little bit more cavalier in my professional choices.
Sure.
But I had to be responsible.
Yeah.
I had a family and a child now depended on me. It changed my whole way of thinking.
It is remarkable how kids make you start to be a little bit more realistic and adult with your choices. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's interesting. So, did you join a firm right away, right out of college?
Right,
out of law
right
school?
out of college, I went to work for Commonwealth Land Title,
Okay.
which was a commercial title direct operation. They only did commercial. And the proprietor or runner of that was a lady named Toni Rykow.
Okay.
And she had personally branded herself very well. Everyone knew her name, everyone knew what she did.
Like you have.
And I have emulated her.
Yeah.
I took what she did and tried to do it as well because everyone knew Toni. She was it.
Were you more of was your relationship more of an employee and boss, or did she kind of take an interest in you and kind of like coach you through a few years?
You know, I was probably only with Toni for about a year.
Okay, so not long.
And that company, Commonwealth Land Title, was gobbled up in a merger from a smaller competitor. A smaller company acquired the big company.
They just raised some money and
And they were called Lawyers Title.
okay.
And they created a new amalgamation called Land America, which became a big title company. Maybe
National or
National.
Minnesota? Okay.
National. And Commonwealth was a national as well. But Land America was a big operation. And Lawyers Title, prior to that, had a very strong entrepreneurial 1031 business. When the new management came in, they looked at me and said, hey, here's a guy that could do 1031 business for us in the Minneapolis area. And so they gave me my first crack at facilitating exchanges and gave me a little bit of guidance and a little bit of training and some direction,
Sure.
which was helpful. But I ended up not staying with them very much longer after that merger. The merger had resulted in redundancies, too many lawyers in the Midwest.
They shed you?
They let me go.
Oh no.
And that was a kick in the teeth.
And
but
your
you know
daughter
what?
was how old at this time?
Like one.
Oh, that's
It's
kind of a
brutal.
scary time to
Right.
lose a gig. Yeah.
So, I mean, the very next day I had a job
Okay.
working for another national competitor. Stayed with them until about 2005.
Did you steal any clients?
Let's
bring
just
them
say
along?
that I was very good at what I did.
Sure.
And I repeated the success I had had with the predecessor
Sure.
and built them a nice business. And then one day, I remember my manager saying, you know, that commission deal that you have, you thought you had that forever, but you don't. And so that's not going to be the case anymore. So they cut my commission after I'd really done a good job for them. I couldn't understand it. I was kind of, like perplexed.
How do you keep a soldier around when you cut them off like that? That's
Right.
Yeah. So
So then I left.
Yeah.
I left immediately.
second. Okay. So the second location.
Yeah.
Lawyers.
And then I joined Commercial Partners, and that was a group of 4 or 5 people that owned their title agency. They had a little teeny fledgling 1031 business that never really did anything. And I blew that
Multiple
up.
locations or one, and where was it?
Just in Minneapolis, downtown Minneapolis.
Okay.
And I just grew that thing. From
Yeah.
2005 to, I don't know, 208, 213, we took off.
In that period in the 08s, was that actually good for 1031 exchanges because so many things had to get moved around in that?
There was a lot of difficulty with low velocity during the recession period.
It got quiet. Yeah.
But as we came out of that
It
recession,
got crazy.
it was like you can't keep up with it. You
Yeah.
can't get enough staff. You can't have enough infrastructure. You can't keep up with the demand. And we rode that gravy train, until present day, I would say. I mean, even now,
Yeah.
with the Federal Reserve raising rates,
Yeah.
our business isn't tapering off.
Truly.
Yeah.
And how do you gauge that? Is it units? Is it volume? Like, is it sides?
You could say it's revenue.
Okay.
You could say it's transaction volume, the number of files we're opening up, the number of clients we're serving, the number of transactions we're involved with. But
And
definitely revenue-wise, we're still as good, if not better.
Have you been personally tracking yourself, these last 10, 15 years, and kind of like know where it's all been going? then as well? Or do you look back and say, gosh, look at where we've come?
You know, we have not had a lot of time to look in the rear
You're just so busy.
mirror. We've been very reactive.
Yeah.
Just trying to deal with the current emergencies. And we don't really look backwards very much.
Sure.
I am always eager and nervous. Like, I'm Irish, so I have this sort of famine DNA thing, you know, where I'm worried
Did you grow
about
up
the
Catholic?
next. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And so I worry about the next calamity, and I'm always trying to like be hungry and looking for the next transaction
Sure.
to work on.
So has it been easy for you to bring people on payroll, to hire, or
No.
are you a little bit more reserved there? Like who runs that operation?
Well, I'm married to Marna Peterson.
Yep.
Marna is instrumental. Like
You said a lot of
integral.
kind words about her prior to our start.
She's like the Marna multiplier. Like if you had a business and you added Marna to it, it would be 5 times more successful and profitable. She's just like super efficient, super knowledgeable.
Strategic.
Before we were married, she worked for Norwest Bank that merged into what is now Wells Fargo. So she's got a banking background, business background,
There was a small little multiple there.
and she's awesome.
Yeah.
So when it comes to hiring and training, I think that Marna has been integral in helping pick the right people, train the right people. During the pandemic, I will say that we had some missteps because we weren't physically in the room with our new hires. And we weren't imparting our philosophy by being with them. And that we did have some misfires. We had some difficulties during the pandemic hiring the right people and retaining the right people.
I think everyone's looking backwards and realizing that that just can't be done. You need everybody in the room. Maybe not every day, but you need everyone close.
People learn by listening
Absolutely.
and being
Yeah.
present. And I love it when I hear my staff using some of my shtick in the phone calls. Like I can hear my words being said by them.
Sure.
You know, so that's great.
So, did Marna did she train you? And what I mean by that is, you were married a little bit earlier in life. Did she kind of help mold you to who you were, or have you always kind of been who you are today? With the lucky add-on of a great spouse.
I would say that in all humility, I have probably adapted a lot to and appreciated things that she has implemented in our marriage and in our business. And without her, I don't think I would be the person I am.
It's a nice way
So
to
I got to
honor her.
appreciate.
Yeah.
I got to appreciate what she does.
How old's your daughter now?
26.
And is she dabbling in the world of real estate in some capacity, or not even
She's
slightly?
far away from it. You know, she saw her parents working their arses off.
You are a workaholic.
We work all the time. We
Yeah.
don't take vacations. We
you
don't
derive your
disconnect.
joy from it, though.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we have a different set of problems than people that work a 40-hour work week, and we have different benefits. But one of the things that we don't disconnect, we don't unplug, we don't go on vacation. I can remember going to Florida and taking these Rubbermaid bins full of my active files to Florida with me.
You brought them on the flight?
And having a printer Amazoned to, or having printer scanners sent to wherever I was, because I'd have to work the whole time I was in Florida.
Wow.
Which was great
Yeah.
when, but
It's hard to enjoy a beach if you're moving papers around.
right.
So she has gone far away from it. But
She-
does she also appreciate that her parents are obviously quite astute, workaholics, objectivists, and
I
serving a tremendous amount of, the Midwests? And you're saying now that, we're not just serving the Midwest, you are national now.
We're doing deals all over the country,
Yeah.
and even some international deals, because
Really?
you can do foreign to foreign.
But you can't do U.S. to foreign through an exchange, can you?
Correct, but
Yeah.
you could do a foreign to foreign. So we're looking at a deal real estate sold in the UK, purchase in Canada. That's fine.
Fascinating.
Or New Zealand to New Zealand. We've done that as well.
Is that because that's all Commonwealth and there's
It's-
like a single jurisdiction?
I just won't do non-English speaking foreign transactions. They're already hard enough.
Yeah.
But then if you add a language barrier, I would just as soon not do that deal.
So nothing South America, nothing Mexico yet.
Not yet. I
Yeah.
mean, I do have a staff person that's fluent in Spanish, so I suppose we could pull that off, but we haven't been asked to. And honestly, I'm not looking for that unique business.
Sure.
I'm not hungry enough, I guess, to seek that out.
So going backwards with Commercial Partners, you were one of 5 partners in its earlier stage when you joined. How did Commercial Partners evolve, and congratulations to its recent sale?
So in 2019, we sold that business to Fidelity National Title, a very, very large national title company, which had also, ironically, purchased all of the assets of Land America Exchange, my prior employer. Land America actually blew up in a bankruptcy, and all of their assets were purchased.
Because you weren't there.
You could say that because you're going to die.
Yeah.
Their subsidiary that ran their 1031 operation had invested the monies, allegedly, that were entrusted with them in securities that were backed by student loans.
Oh, man.
They were thought to be never going to be illiquid because they were backed by student loans. You cannot get out of your student loan obligations, right?
It doesn't mean people don't pay them just because you can't declare bankruptcy.
In the financial crisis of 2008, they became illiquid, causing the bankruptcy of not only Land America Exchange, but their parent company, Land America, the title company.
Wow.
And so they're gone. I mean, you can Google Land America 1031 bankruptcy and you'll find hundreds of people that were adversely affected, perhaps thousands.
Did you scoop any of them up? Or was it a contentious leaving when you did leave?
You know, when I
They
left,
did
I
shed
left,
you,
and,
so
I was gone.
Yeah,
So
it's irrelevant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Moved on with your life. So Commercial Partners, it had grown to how many people, how many partners? Because it was a few locations.
You know, we probably had 50 or 60 between. We had an office in Plymouth that ran under the brand Custom Home Builders title.
Yeah.
Which was
I've
kind
been
of
there
a
a few times.
subsidiary.
Yep.
And then we had our exchange business, and then we had the primary 1031, or sorry, the title business. We had a whole floor on the U.S. Bank plaza. I mean, we had a lot of people working. We had a lot of office space, a lot of attorneys, and a lot of people on the payroll. And we did a lot of transactions. It was great. And it was a great platform for me to do 1031s off of. And it was great for them because I brought in a lot of title business just by being in the role that I was able to steer some business.
And you said you have sold it now, when? 2019?
2019, I think, was the official sale date.
Was it an unexpected offer when they came to you? Or were you kind of cultivating this deal for a while and hoping that they would absorb Commercial Partners?
I think my partners were more cultivating and desirous. They were older than I was. They were more financially desirous, I think.
Yeah. They were ready to retire?
And I like the status quo.
Yeah.
I don't like change. I'm the Irish Catholic. I like to just keep everything equilibrium, you know.
Yeah.
I
You're
like what I
dogmatic in your cadence and you like your rhythm.
I do.
Yeah.
I like it.
Okay, so has it been not troublesome, but is it less efficient now that you don't have a title company down the hall?
Well, I think
Or is it irrelevant?
we learned in the pandemic how to be very nimble. When that virus was announced, I remember ordering new laptops like right away from my group.
Really? You wanted everybody to have the same standard, a good one, make sure that there would be no dropping, skipping of a beat.
And I figured we'd be working remotely for a month or two.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It was longer.
And we were out. We bugged out early. Even before the mandates, we were gone. We went hybrid or completely remote.
Did you ever just come in, just have it all to yourself, the space,
it was
all
so
the time?
Quiet. It was so quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had an empty office that I didn't use for like 2.5 years. I paid for contract parking in the U.S. Bank Plaza because I didn't want to give up my spot.
Yeah.
For years there had been a wait list to get a contract spot in that
Sure.
building. I didn't want to give it up. But eventually we cut ties with that building. We're now in the 222 building.
I love it here.
You know.
Were you afraid, or were you just, let's make a lot of adjustments? And what I mean by that is I've spoken to different persons in leadership and those that are a little bit more entrepreneurial, and some were admittedly terrified of what was to happen, but some were like, you know what, I don't get scared just in general because I'm good at volatility and creating immediacy with my decisions. Like, where are you in your personality type?
I would say I was annoyed by the many curveballs, unexpected tasks and burdens that were put on my plate as a result of changing our business, the pandemic, and just, everything that, there's a lot of logistical things that go on in keeping a business going. You know what I mean? So I guess I was annoyed because I wasn't able to do what I really like, which is just do deals.
Yeah.
And then financially, I'm super, super, super afraid of like the next shoe's about to drop. So very conservative. I have no debt and I'm sitting on cash. I'm liquid. There's a lot of opportunities right now in the stock market to buy.
So whoever is watching this, it's time for you to start to present some opportunities to Jeff.
Well, I wouldn't take them. I mean, right now you can buy bank stocks that 3 weeks ago were like twice as valuable.
Yes.
Look at Citibank. They've got a...
CNBC has made a lot of stupid calls, let's just say.
I would love to jump in with both feet and buy up a bunch of financial institutions right now, but I'm afraid.
Yeah.
And that fear is what, makes me be more conservative.
Have you always been like that? Have you always been conservative in your investment decisions?
Yes.
Have you ever seen something, some kind of an exchange come up and say, wow, this is an opportunity? You call the guy and say, hey, are you allowing people to buy into this next decision?
So I had a friend of mine that owned a bank.
Okay.
And that friend of mine always said, Jeff, you got to go into real estate. You got to be in the deals. You got to be an owner. And I own some real estate, but I have never really had a very good experience being an owner myself because I am engaged in this business.
Sure.
This is where I focus all of my energies. And so owning an office building or owning an apartment complex isn't really my forte.
Sure.
But he was really like, hey, you got to do it. And I see the wisdom of it. I see the ability to use leverage, the ability to take tax deductions, to generate tax deductions,
Yeah.
But I haven't really gone too deep into that area because I just focus on chasing one rabbit.
Yeah. Truly, you have been a soldier.
I am.
Yeah. And it is, I find it fascinating. You may take this humbly, but a lot of people know who you are. And although commercial real estate is not on TV in Minnesota, you do actually have celebrity status in some capacity. It's just the reality. Where have you gotten the most unusual call from? As in, hey, Jeff, I'm so-and-so, and it's just like you were just so unexpected and you were probably pretty excited from the call.
I got a call from an older man driving in his car to a closing. And it occurred to him on the way to the closing that he needed to set up an exchange
Quickly.
to defer his taxes. And he wanted me to jump into action, and I was ready to do it,
Yeah.
And I asked him, where are you going to? What's the name of the title company so I can call ahead? And he didn't even know the name of the title company he was driving to. He just knew where it was.
Because
generally.
he was so successful that he's just losing an understanding of everything he's amassed, or the opposite, he's just a forgetful person.
I don't know. But you know what? You would say that I'm probably locked up with paralysis, that I don't take risks and I don't jump into the real estate hot tub.
Yeah.
And some people that do are very successful, and they are maybe successful in spite of the fact that they're not very organized or on top of the details. Maybe you don't have to be.
You and I have a good friend who has a very messy desk. I'm not going to say his name, but he will watch this and he will laugh. But he's quite successful and he is not organized. I've actually helped him make a couple adjustments in his own business and he's appreciated it. But I think there might be a lot of real estate guys like that, right? Or just entrepreneurial people just in general.
Well, I remember going out to lunch with a real estate investor who's now deceased, and he was ADHD, attention deficit. He was like scouring the room, and he couldn't sit still, and but he had amassed maybe $35-40 million of real estate value.
God bless him.
And that's like in the course of like 2 decades. He had really done it. So I think that there are a lot of people that have significant deficits in organization, but they're not afraid.
Yes.
And when they see a deal, they know how to strike.
Yeah, the decisiveness component of it is what is the biggest skill set in a productive and well-to-do real estate professional. So it's interesting to think about that we have all these people that refer to you and talk about you and all these sorts of things, but you're not socially involved with a lot of them. They know you, but you don't really rub elbows with people. You sit in your tower and you get the calls and you make sure that everything is moving forward. Or am I wrong there?
You're true.
Yeah.
I don't golf.
You don't
I
golf.
hate the game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't really like going to social events. I feel socially awkward. So I would rather...
Are you an introvert? That's the question.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would rather stay at home than go out on the weekend. I don't derive a lot of energy from being in large groups.
Okay.
I like to recharge.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think for me, having someone call me and me being able to be on my turf, in my field of comfort is great.
And that's how you've always been. You've always been wanting to be a little insulated from large groups of people, and you've just figured out a way to make that work. Yeah. So, I don't want to bring this back to me, but I hate groups, and I've had to figure out ways to force myself to be in them. But this isn't about me. So, where we are now, and you've said that it hasn't slowed down, has it truly grown 2019, 2020, 21, now into this year, 22?
I pinch myself every month.
Yeah.
Like thinking, I thought we would be dead in the water by February with all these rate increases.
Yeah.
But it seems that stubborn sellers are not willing to sell beneath what they mentally think their property is worth.
Sure.
And so for that reason, they're still getting their gains.
Really?
As long as they're getting their gains, they need a guy like me to help them defer it.
Sure.
And I think that there's still limited inventory.
Very much so.
So because of that limited inventory, we're going into what I think will be a hot spring market again.
Interesting.
Crazy.
And
right?
Are you shrinking or increasing? Are you shrinking your payroll because you know how to do things better, or are you actually continuing to add people?
I'm keeping my pricing high.
Yeah.
And I'm keeping my staff status quo, if I did have a little attrition. It was voluntary attrition, and I let it happen.
People left because
someone wanted to walk the plank.
Yeah.
And I said, there it is.
Yeah.
So I was surprised that I did that, but I knew in my heart of hearts that this interest rate increases have eventually got to affect our business.
Absolutely.
I just don't know when.
Sure. It just hasn't yet. Did you demand people to return when you could?
No.
Really?
I induced them to come back. I have one person that works remotely, and when she is in the Twin Cities, she lives like 45 minutes north of here.
It wouldn't be viable for her.
It wouldn't be viable. But in the winter months, she's got a place in Padre Island in Texas. She's working remotely from Padre Island. Sure. I don't care where she works. She is like she's
a rock
workhorse.
Star. Yeah.
She is going to be plowing that field every day because she's a hard worker, and it doesn't matter where she is.
Have you, over the years, have you tried to mold anyone? I mean, you're not going to be, none of us live forever, and eventually we want to pass the torch in some capacity. Are you grooming people for that? Or do you not know yet what you're going to be doing?
So I'm in my late 50s.
Yeah.
I think I've got to work until I'm 70 for a
Sure.
couple of reasons. One, that's when you get your maximum Social Security. Who knows if they'll even have something called Social Security when I'm 70.
I think you're going to be the last generation.
You know, I love work. I love
Yeah.
doing deals. I like being in charge of my own domain.
Sure.
I like having something to do.
Yeah.
I like going to this office.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm going to work probably till I'm at 70.
This is your happy place.
This is a
Serving
happy place.
others is how you derive your joy.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's...
And I like doing deals. I'm very transactional. I do like to make money. I can remember when I was serving papers for Metro Legal,
Yeah.
they would give me a bonus of $3 for each paper I served. $3.
When was this?
It's like, you know, late 80s or
Okay.
something like that, you know. But I mean, I know what the value of a dollar is.
Sure.
I've worked hard for $3. So I appreciate the financial success we've had.
Where'd you grow up?
McAllister, Groveland,
Yeah.
St. Paul, Minnesota.
Where'd you go to church?
Nativity.
You went to
We lived in-
Nativity.
I
Did you
lived
go to
across the
Nativity?
street.
Did
I
you go
went
to-
to Nativity for 8 years.
I mean, a lot of St. Paul guys that watch this and nod and say, I like him.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and then I took off. I didn't go to Cretan or St. Thomas. I went to Totino Grace.
You went to Tortino.
Yep.
That's an interesting decision by your folks. Not a lot of Mac guys go west like that.
You know, at the time, both of those schools were all boys and
Yeah.
all military.
Sure.
Like what?
Things have changed.
I'm not down for that. And also, I enjoyed the more liberal environment.
Oh, you're talking about Totino not being like St. Thomas Academy.
Correct.
Yeah.
It was co-ed.
Yeah.
And it was more, I guess, on the liberal end of the spectrum.
Did you meet Marna there?
No.
Okay.
Not until college. She was going to Augsburg. I was at the University of Minnesota, and our paths crossed because we were both in same close proximity.
Sure. You're not going on vacations unless you're bringing work with you, and you don't have any hobbies. The business is your hobby. It is your art. Do you have grandkids yet? No, because she's
No.
26.
I have a son
Yeah.
who's 23.
Okay.
He is in the business with me. He does
Here in the office?
Yep, his office is just down the hall. He's doing our HR. He's doing our 401k. He's doing wire transfers, QuickBooks, anything to do with money transfers, accounting, compliance, insurance, stuff like that.
Some family businesses, their kids have an expectation that they are going to take the torch. Was he always interested in what you and Marna have been creating over the years, or was there like a small switch that happened recently?
I can remember when he was like 12 years old, and I would get in like a stack of fee checks. You know, every month I had to take that stack of fee checks and
Gosh, 'cause
organize
there used
them.
to be checks.
Right, we wouldn't actually, and I remember him helping me each
Yeah.
month. We would use the dining room table to organize these checks into amounts, like somewhere 250, somewhere 350, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And so he would help me, and that's, I think, how he kind of got an interest in the money side of our business. He's not really interested in the external customer-centric side of the business. He's more interested in operations, accounting, bookkeeping, things of that nature.
Do you ever honor some of your longtime clients, customers in a little bit more unique ways, or they're just happy and they just continue to come back to you because it's so easy to work with you? Because it truly is.
You know, I don't mind taking someone to lunch or dinner.
Yeah.
I do not do thoughtful gifts.
Sure.
I should, but we are a high volume business. You know,
Very.
we're doing like 2,500 transactions a year,
Wow.
and we're low margin. So
Yeah.
unlike a real estate agent that's making a percentage of the deal,
Yeah.
we're making a flat fee of maybe
Yeah.
$1,000. So you got to do a lot of
Yeah.
volume, which doesn't leave a lot of extra for doing,
Yeah.
you know, stuff. Now, I had over the weekend an idea, because I like black knit beanies. A really high quality beanie, like Polo makes a great one,
Sure.
or American Giant. It's a pleasure to put that hat on. It feels great, right?
You're gonna send out
I thought over
beanies.
the weekend I would get like an embroidered 1031 logo on it, but I think the beanie
Jeff,
craze
that's
is
a bad
past.
call. Don't be doing that.
I think it's past. I think
yes,
it's
too-
done.
it's getting too
passé.
warm, number one.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to do
Yeah,
the
that's
beanie.
funny. How much would you say you're helping exchange? Not units, but how big is this number now? Do you know that at all?
All I know is we are really helping the economy grow. We do something. When I drive over by the University of Minnesota, people say, oh, it's changed so much. And I'm like, yes, it has. Because every one of those pizza shops that are now gone and now are like some kind of, different thing,
yeah.
I did that. I
Sure.
sold that guy's pizza shop. He sold out to a developer and they developed
Reuter
something
Walton bought
good.
a lot of that stuff,
A lot of those, yeah.
Do you serve them?
I
those
can't
guys?
say any particular
Yeah.
client's
Yeah.
name. I don't want to anyway.
Understood.
But let's say I've worked with a lot
Yeah.
of people in town.
It's not just the various, I mean, you have actually helped create a neighborhood then in some respects.
Or recreated.
Yeah, recreated.
I don't know if it's been recreated in a better way, but
Well-
it's definitely, there's a lot of
I like
jobs that have been
change.
created.
Change is inevitable, so you might as well like it.
Right.
Yeah,
And we need more of that revitalization.
yeah.
You're going to see Uptown having to need a rebranding, a
Be
reorientation.
diplomatic, because you're thinking
You
about
know?
how to phrase things. Yes. What do you think the biggest challenge is with Uptown?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that when they last Apple, that was a blow that just kept going.
Yeah,
But that's going back
Something's
for like
gotta
a long
change.
time, right?
yeah.
Now they've lost a Target, they've lost a Veda,
I was very surprised
they
about
lost
Target.
a bunch of small little places.
Yeah.
St. Sabrina's was there forever.
Yeah.
Where'd they go? They're
When
gone.
they got the paint splashed on the mural, I thought it was really tacky that someone would do that. Because art is art, and it should be respected and admired in some respects. So it's 2023. We still don't know what's going to happen. The Fed keeps raising the rates. Business is not slowing down. Why did it slow down so much in '08? When we had all this volatility, but right now, which let's be honest, the economy is kind of unusual right now. People can say that it's great, but it's not really great. It seems shaky. Everybody's a little shaky. Why, what do you think is going to be the moment where the velocity really does stop?
Have you heard the expression cash is king?
Yes.
There's a lot of cash
A lot of people
in
have
the
a lot of
economy
cash.
still.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cash
On the
sloshing-
sidelines?
sloshing around.
Yeah.
And that has to burn off
Yeah.
before we have a 2008 kind of event. Because employment is still super strong.
Do you think people are looking at some of their accounts, companies, and seeing that they are well above 250 right now, and they're saying we need to make some decisions here, and that's actually going to be good for the economy, that they actually burn through some cash making some real estate decisions here?
I don't know if that's going to be good.
Yeah.
I don't know if that creates efficiency. When you consolidate all of the deposits and say the top 10 mega banks, the banks that are too big to fail,
Sure.
I don't think that does any good for anyone because who creates the most nimble solutions for businesses that need loans? It's
Small
community banks.
Absolutely.
But the community banks are being drained of the vital lifeblood, core deposits that they need to satisfy the regulators that they're viable so that they can make more loans. And the community banks typically can create solutions. Maybe they charge more for their product,
Yeah. But they're
But-
more immediate.
but they can create they're not doing cookie cutter deals.
No.
And that's who I think needs to have the money. But the money is flowing out of the small and even regional sized banks.
Yeah.
And it's going to
Into
the big
Chase.
ones. It's going to Capital One Financial
Yeah.
and the big ones.
Yeah. Makes me a little
Citibank.
bit nervous. Yeah. So, do you ever serve, we're going to shift a little bit. Do you ever serve the farming world?
Oh, absolutely. We
Really?
do a lot of exchanges for farm. Now, I'm a
Yeah.
city slicker.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about farming.
Yeah.
But we do a lot of farm exchanges because
Are they on the phone or do they come in?
they
Do
come
like
in on
to
the
come
phone.
Yeah.
But they farmers are private.
Yeah.
They don't want anyone to know
They
their
have a lot
business
of
in
money.
their town.
They have a lot of money and they wear the same pants for 20 years.
If you're a farmer
Yeah.
and you sell a piece of real estate and your neighbor knows that you're doing an exchange,
Yeah.
and you approach that neighbor to buy their land, and you want their land because it's synergistically closer to your home farm, you don't want to buy across the county.
Sure.
You want to buy the neighbor's land. Well, if they know your business, they know that you're doing an exchange, you are at an economic disadvantage. They have information that they will use against you.
Interesting.
So they come to me because they want privacy. They want discretion.
Interesting.
And they also want to do some more sophisticated stuff than a small town competitor may not be able to handle.
Have you ever been approached by someone where they're like, Jeff, do you know anybody that might have an interest in purchasing this? I have to exchange it out. You know, I'm starting to make some decisions here. Have you ever kind of connected people in that?
You would think I would,
Not,
but
yeah.
maybe once or twice in my entire career have I ever made a marriage. I am not like looking for that.
Sure.
I don't get compensated.
You don't get approached
that.
for it.
I don't. And I think only have downside because if the deal goes sideways, who are they going to blame?
Yeah.
Like, why did you introduce me to this guy? But I did have a guy that owned like 5 townhomes or condos all in a row in Uptown some years ago. And I had a client that was looking for multifamily in Minneapolis, and
Sure.
they got connected.
Yeah.
They did their deal. Everyone was
You
happy.
helped bless that connection.
I didn't bless it. I
Yeah.
just said, hey, call this guy.
Yeah.
And it worked out.
Okay. Well, I think people should know that even if he doesn't do that, even if Jeff doesn't do that, you can be called every once in a while, maybe. If
I don't
you know
want
something.
that.
You don't want that.
I don't want that. And I'll tell you why. If you are a real estate agent and I'm working with your client,
Yeah.
do you really want me
No?
to help them find solutions, or is that your
Honor
job?
the relationship because
That's your
that's
job.
my job.
I'll
yeah.
stay in my lane, you stay in your lane, and then we both do well.
Did you move a lot over the last several years? Have you always been in Mendota?
I've lived in the lovely
I know you
county of
relinquished
Dakota
it.
County,
Yeah.
and I really like the property taxes, and I really liked the old growth trees and the
Sure.
nature down in Dakota County
Yeah.
and Mendota Heights area. But I'm now living in downtown Minneapolis, just blocks from our office here. So my commute is basically a block and a half.
It's good exercise.
And it is Skyway connected.
Yeah.
If I want to not put on a coat, I can
Yeah.
just come on over.
And has that walk been, let's just be honest, has it been troublesome or is it fine? Is what they're saying out there, is that a false perception or what's going on?
Well, you can live in Minneapolis
Yeah.
and you can be incensed
Sure.
if you want to be. If you want to be a negative Nelly, you can say the Skyway system is stupid.
Sure.
And everyone's in a habit trail. You could have that negative attitude. Or you could say the Skyways are great.
Yeah.
We don't have to walk outside.
It is nice.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it
There's
depends on your
not
perspective.
many cities globally that have our Skyway.
I love the Skyways
Yeah.
because I don't like to put on a coat. I like to be able to walk to my office, and I love the shops, the Caribou Coffee and the pizza places, and all of these businesses that are in the Skyways are fun. So I like it a lot, and I like to navigate my way around. Now, granted, I get lost. I've lived.
You
and
still
worked-
get lost.
Yeah, if I go far enough,
Yeah.
I will get disoriented. I'm not sure where I am. I have to go outside to figure out where.
I always
am.
ask a security guy, hey, can
Okay.
you just bring me to XYZ? Because
Right.
I don't know where I'm going. They always say yes. They
Right.
got nothing else to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeff, I'm going to wrap it up. I really appreciate your time. We have a transactional relationship, but I admire you and I want you to know that I consider you a buddy. And I'm always going to have fun sending people your way. And thank you for always making their exchanges phenomenal, because you always have. And I look forward to doing more personally with you. And, thanks for calling me back quickly. You know, I have one that I'm going to be doing soon. It's a baby, but you like those. You want as many of them as possible.
Yeah.
And I'm actually curious, you know, I'm going to be rolling a duplex into a single family. It's currently not occupied. I'm assuming I should probably lease it out because I'd like to sell it again quite quickly thereafter. Can we just unpack that pretty quickly here?
Well, your mental intent when you acquire a property, your cognitive intent has to be to hold it for investment or business. Flippers don't qualify for 1031 because they're holding for resale. So renting out the property for a substantial period of time may be advantageous for you so that you can show, based on the facts and circumstances, I was holding this for investment or business.
Understood.
That means maybe you don't want to do a big rehab right before you rent it out.
Sure.
Maybe you want to rent it out and then put the lipstick on it after a year or two.
Understood.
You know?
Yeah.
But that's going to slow your roll.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to turn it as quickly, but you'll be able to turn it much more efficiently.
Yeah.
From a tax perspective.
From a tax perspective. All right. I appreciate that advice, and that's what I'm going to do. That's why I come to you. You give me that advice, and we implement it. So, do you have any words? A lot of people are going to see this. At least I hope. Maybe not.
I don't know. I mean, I have always thought very highly of you. Your social media, your digital footprint is very impressive. You are a young person, in my estimation, that has really gotten a great reputation of treating people fairly.
Thank you.
And you're very well dressed, you're very poised, and I know that you're a father now and you're responsible.
I'm so lucky. She's so healthy.
I just like to see the next generation of real estate leaders coming up in the marketplace, and I really think that you are one of those people in our marketplace.
Thank you, Jeff. And thanks to all that has spent a few minutes here on Real Talk with Geoffrey. And if you've got any questions, shoot me a text, and I'll connect you with Jeff. He's helped a lot of my friends, and I hope he helps you guys.